It was supposed to be a routine Tuesday meeting. Quarterly updates, project timelines, maybe a surprise bonus announcement if we were lucky. But the second Clifford Brennan cleared his throat and said, "I've got some big news today," I felt my stomach twist. Something was off. He stood at the front of the conference room with that smile he always used when he was about to screw someone over, the one that never reached his eyes. "Starting next month," Cliff said, "we're officially naming Ashley Brennan as the new director of property development." The room clapped. People actually clapped. I sat there blinking like I hadn't heard him right. Ashley, the 26-year-old who still couldn't read a drainage plan without calling for help. "My name is Greg Palmer. I'm 47, I live in Mesa, Arizona. And for the last 5 years, I've been running Apex Development's field operations. Site evaluations, zoning meetings, contractor disputes, all of it. I was the one chasing down permits while Ashley was still in business school. And just 3 months ago, Cliff introduced her as a market analyst who was here to learn the business. I clapped too. Robotic, hands moving on their own like I wasn't even in my body. Cliff kept talking, beaming at Ashley like a proud father, because that's exactly what he was. "And I want to especially thank Greg for all his help getting her up to speed," he said. My collar felt tight. I loosened my tie without thinking about it. Ashley gave this awkward half-wave like she knew she didn't deserve a damn thing. She was trying to act humble, but the designer heels and blazer that probably cost more than my truck payment gave her away. Cliff went on about vision and growth and fresh leadership while I stared straight ahead, pretending to listen. My ears buzzed like I was underwater. 5 years. 5 years of late nights, canceled weekends, hauling my ass to city council meetings to get projects greenlit, thinking it was all building to something. But it wasn't. This was the play. They never planned to promote me. I was the mule, the babysitter, the disposable stepping stone. And now that it was done, they expected me to smile and keep clapping. I turned back to my screen, opened the project tracker, and stared at the numbers. But all I could see were the last 5 years going up in smoke. 5 years earlier, I'd joined Apex fresh off a divorce. 43 years old and terrified. My ex-wife Diane had taken me to the cleaners in the divorce, walked away with 60% of everything we'd built together. Left me and my 2 sons, Tyler and Brandon, with a mortgage, a beat-up Ford, and no damn backup plan. I needed stability, insurance, something boring but reliable. Cliff Brennan gave me both. He said he was impressed with my past work in municipal planning and promised I'd grow fast with Apex. "You're exactly the kind of leader we're looking for," he told me. Said I had real grit, and I believed him. I threw myself into the job. Site inspections in 110-degree heat, writing bids until midnight, dragging contractors into line when they tried to cut corners. City permits, land surveys, tenant meetings. I didn't just learn the system, I ran it. I'd crash on the couch some nights, laptop still open, because I couldn't stop thinking about drainage codes or fencing regulations. It was June when I started. Phoenix was hitting 115 that first week, but I didn't care. I had work, I had purpose. Brandon, my youngest, he was 11 then. He'd look at me over breakfast and say, "You coming to my game Saturday?" I'd promise I would, but Saturday always turned into just one walkthrough or this one contract issue. Tyler was 14, already talking about being an engineer someday. He didn't say much when things got busy, but I knew he noticed. Cliff noticed too. He'd call me into his office every couple of months with that casual tone like we were buddies, tell me how important I was. That long-term leadership was coming. I just had to stay the course. It wasn't just words either. I got bigger projects, more responsibility. At some point I assumed I was next in line for director. Who else was there? Cliff's own son had moved to Colorado years ago, wanted nothing to do with the family business. Then 6 months ago, Cliff stopped me in the hallway and said, "Hey, heads up. My daughter's starting next week, fresh out of Wharton. Just wants to see how things run. She'll be shadowing you a bit." I said, "Sure." Figured it'd be some version of take your kid to work day, maybe a month of observation before she moved into HR or marketing. Instead, in walks Ashley Brennan on a Monday morning, looking like she'd just stepped out of a magazine. She walked in like she owned the place, offered me a handshake and said, "You must be Greg. Dad says you're the operations backbone around here." That smile wasn't respectful. It was rehearsed, like she already knew where she was headed and I just didn't matter. Still, I didn't think too much of it. I'd seen plenty of clueless kids bounce in and out of this industry. Then she started showing up to everything. Every site visit, every zoning meeting, every call with city officials. I'd walk into a bid review and there she'd be, already in the chair next to mine, scrolling through her phone like she was bored out of her mind. Once I was explaining permit timelines to a developer, and Ashley cut me off to ask if there were any software tools that could just automate that stuff. I laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. The thing is, I trained her without realizing it. I answered her questions, gave her access to my files, even defended her once when she screwed up a site survey entry because I thought I was being helpful. I thought I was being a team player. Turns out I was just building my replacement. I stopped giving her the benefit of the doubt that same week. It was Thursday night, close to 9 o'clock. Office was quiet except for the janitor's radio and the buzz from the vending machine down the hall. I was sitting at my desk triple-checking zoning maps for a Chandler Heights build we'd nearly botched last month. Ashley had left hours ago, probably off at happy hour somewhere. I was packing up when I heard voices coming from Cliff's office. His door was cracked open. Not enough to see them, but just enough to hear. "Still no word on that director position?" a man said. I recognized the voice. Leonard Porter, one of the firm's senior investors. Been around since Apex's early days. There was a pause, then Cliff's laugh, low and smug. "He's a boots-on-ground guy. Good in the field, but that's where he stays." I stopped moving. Set my bag down on the desk without making a sound. Len pushed back. "Greg's the one who's kept your projects from collapsing the last few years." "Yeah," Cliff replied. "But Ashley's got the Wharton MBA. She understands where the market's going, and she's family." Family. I stepped back from the door, stood there for 10 seconds, then walked to my desk, grabbed my keys, and left. Didn't say goodnight to anyone. That night, I sat in the garage with the door open, letting the desert night cool things down. Had a glass of whiskey and called Tony Rizzo, an old contractor buddy I'd worked with for years. "Tony," I said, "you ever feel like the work you do doesn't matter to the people signing the checks?" He laughed. "Every damn day, Greg." "Why?" "Just confirming I'm not crazy." "You're not. You thinking about making a move?" "Maybe." "Good. You've been overdue." But that Tuesday morning, sitting in the conference room watching Cliff hand Ashley her leather folder, all those promises turned to dust. The applause died down. People went back to their desks. I stayed in my chair for a minute, staring at the wall. Then I stood up, walked to my desk, opened Word, and typed 3 lines. No fluff, no tears, no room to twist it later. Effective 2 weeks from today, I resign from my position at Apex Development Group. Gregory Palmer. I printed it, signed it, and walked it straight to Cliff's office. He was still grinning when I knocked. "Hey, Greg, just in time. I'm resigning." I dropped the letter on his desk. Effective 2 weeks from today. His smile twitched, froze, then dropped. Wait, what?" He picked up the letter like he couldn't read English. "You're serious?" I nodded. "Already sent it to HR. You'll get the official copy soon." He stood up, palms out like he was calming down a hostage. "Okay, let's not make any fast moves here. I know the promotion caught you off guard, but there's more to come. This isn't the end of your growth here." I didn't move. "You've built something here, Greg. Your reputation means something," he said, starting to sweat. "And I know you've got responsibilities. 2 kids, a mortgage, bills. Let's be honest, jumping ship right now? Not smart." There it was. The guilt trip. I'd been waiting for it. "I'm aware of my finances," I said, "and I'm not jumping anywhere. I'm walking calmly." Cliff stepped around the desk. "Look, how about this? We create a new title for you. Senior Project Director. Same pay, maybe a bump in 6 months. You'd report to Ashley, sure, but you'd have full oversight of no." He blinked. "Just like that?" "Just like that." He sat back down, slower this time. "If you leave like this, I can't promise glowing references. You've built your whole network under my firm. That's proprietary knowledge. It wouldn't look good." I tilted my head. "You threatening me?" He held up his hands. "I'm trying to protect you from burning a bridge. The bridge is fine. I'm just not on it anymore." We sat there in silence for a few seconds. Finally, he leaned forward and said, "You trained her. She still needs you." I smiled. "I'll finish out my 2 weeks. I'll even make sure Ashley doesn't crash the entire Chandler Heights project. But after that, you're on your own." His jaw clenched. He looked like he wanted to throw something. I walked out of his office and closed the door behind me. Didn't slam it. Didn't look back. Just went straight to my inbox and started cleaning house. Monday morning, I walked in like any other day. Coffee in one hand, badge on my hip, ready to wrap up my final 2 weeks. Ashley was already at my desk, or trying to be. She had 3 monitors pulled up, 2 legal pads covered in messy notes, and a face that looked like she hadn't slept. "Hey," she said, voice tight. "Do you have a second? I think something's off." I didn't sit, just looked over her shoulder. Spreadsheets, budget reports, projected costs versus actuals, and a giant red cell blinking in the corner of one screen. "Wait," I said, pointing. "Is that the city compliance deadline for the Peoria site?" "I think so," she said. I don't know, it came up in a contractor email this morning. That was due last Friday, Ashley. Her mouth opened, then shut. That triggers a late penalty if the paperwork's not submitted by end of business today. But we didn't get the final bid revision from the civil team yet, because you were supposed to approve the drainage spec and send it back to them. She looked up at me like I just started speaking Russian. I leaned in and started clicking through tabs. The drainage slope was off by 2%. Doesn't sound like much until you realize that means water pooling against the foundation in monsoon season. The city engineer caught it. We got lucky. This is a two-step fix, I continued. But if we don't get it filed today, it's going to hit our developer partner for an $18,000 fee. Ashley dragged a hand down her face. I didn't even know I was responsible for that part. You're responsible for all of it now, I said. You're not shadowing anymore. I talked her through it. Pulled the bid file from my backup, cleaned up the scope language, flagged the right lines for the civil team, and called their office to make sure it got signed before 3. Ashley just sat there nodding, sweating, occasionally asking things like, "Wait, do we need an environmental report on this one?" I didn't answer that one. By the time I walked back to my own desk, my phone was already ringing. It was Tom Gallagher, senior partner at one of our biggest redevelopment clients. "Greg," he said, "I just got a message from someone named Ashley." "Is that who's taking over for you?" "Yes," he sighed. "We've got a city liaison meeting next Thursday. If I show up and she doesn't know how to navigate those folks, I'm walking out. Just a heads up." I kept my tone neutral. "I understand." An hour later, another one called. Ray Diaz from the commercial team out of Tucson. Same vibe. "We don't want to get stuck teaching your replacement how to do her job." By mid-afternoon, I had 4 messages in my inbox, all from clients asking some version of, "Are you really leaving? And if so, who the hell do we call when things go sideways?" I answered all of them calmly, professionally. But deep down, I saw it clear as day. Cliff didn't just screw me. He set Ashley up for failure. The kid was clueless. No structure, no process, no relationships. She wasn't ready, not even close. She was never supposed to lead. She was supposed to inherit. I leaned back in my chair and watched as the inbox kept pinging. Ashley had the title, but I still had the clients, and they were making it real clear who they trusted. Cliff's assistant popped her head into my office right after lunch. "He wants to see you now." I didn't ask what it was about. I already knew. His door was open, but the second I walked in, he closed it hard behind me. Ashley was sitting in one of the chairs, hunched forward, hands clasped like a kid called to the principal's office. Cliff stood by the window, arms crossed. Didn't offer me a seat. "I've been getting calls," he started, tone sharp. "A lot of calls. Clients saying they're confused about who's running what." I didn't say a word. He turned. "You're poisoning our pipeline, Greg. You're poaching clients while you're still on payroll." "No," I said, "I'm answering their questions. They're calling you because you're encouraging it." "They're nervous, Cliff. They've worked with me for 5 years. You shoved them into Ashley's lap with no notice and expected blind loyalty. That's not how trust works." He walked around the desk, getting close. "This isn't about feelings. This is business and it's proprietary. You're taking what you learned here and turning it into leverage somewhere else." I raised an eyebrow. "You're saying I'm breaking some kind of agreement?" He nodded. "I'll have legal draft a cease and desist if I have to." "You're spreading internal processes to third parties. That's confidential." "There's no non-compete in my contract," I said. "No NDA either. Everything I've shared with clients has been about their projects, their deadlines, their concerns. Nothing about Apex's internal operations." Ashley cleared her throat like she wanted to jump in. Cliff snapped, "Stay out of it." Ashley looked down at the floor. I stayed standing, steady. "Let's be real clear. I've made no promises to anyone. I haven't solicited a single contract. But if clients decide to leave after I'm gone, that's on you, not me." Cliff leaned both hands on the desk, trying to stare me down. "You think you're irreplaceable?" "No," I said, "I think I'm trusted." "That's different." He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "And I've kept my word. I'm still here, still finishing out the 2 weeks. Still willing to train Ashley like I said I would." I looked at Ashley. "You need to learn the permit pipeline inside and out. Not just the deadlines, but the why behind them. You also need to stop relying on city officials to spoon-feed you process steps. They expect you to know this stuff already." Ashley nodded, barely looking up. "Yeah, okay." Cliff didn't say anything. I let the silence hang for a few beats, then stepped toward the door. "Let me know when you want to start that training, Ashley. I'll block time this week." I opened the door and walked out without waiting for a response. Behind me, I could hear Cliff mutter something under his breath. And Ashley, she still hadn't moved. By Thursday, I'd had enough of watching the place collapse in slow motion. I booked a long lunch and drove across town to Pinnacle Properties Group. Their office sat on the 18th floor of a sleek glass building in Scottsdale, the kind of place where the elevators didn't rattle and the coffee didn't come from a vending machine. Carmen Reyes was already waiting when I stepped off. Black blazer, sharp boots, and that same no-nonsense energy she'd had since the day I met her at a conference 2 years ago. "Greg," she said, shaking my hand like we were sealing a deal. "Took you long enough." I smirked. Had to finish a few things first. She led me into a bright corner office with a view of Camelback Mountain and a whiteboard packed with active site maps. "I won't waste your time," she said. "We've wanted you here for over a year. You've got the network, the experience, and more importantly, people trust you." She handed me a printed offer sheet. I didn't even have to sit down. Position: Director of Property Development. Salary: $108,000 plus performance incentives. Company vehicle. Full benefits package. Start date as soon as possible. I stared at the number for a second. It was 40% more than what Apex ever paid me. For the same title, Cliff handed Ashley like it was a damn participation trophy. Carmen sat on the edge of her desk, arms crossed. "This isn't charity. You bring value. City connections, loyal contractors, investors who pick up when you call. We're not just hiring you. We're hiring your reputation." It wasn't a hard decision. "I'm in," I said, sliding the offer sheet back to her. No hesitation. Carmen grinned. "Smart. We've got 3 sites in planning. 2 in Texas, 1 outside Tucson. I want you leading the Arizona one by next month." "I'll be ready," I said. She stood, walking me back toward the elevator. As we passed a glass-walled conference room, I spotted a site map I recognized. The same parcel I tried to pitch at Apex 6 months ago. Cliff passed on it. Carmen caught me looking. "Yeah, we grabbed that after Apex dropped the ball. That's a gold mine once zoning clears." I nodded. Of course it was. As the elevator doors opened, she turned to me with a slight smile. "By the way," she said, "don't be surprised how fast your old clients find their way to our door. Loyalty travels." I nodded once. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't walking away empty-handed. I was walking with everything that mattered. 6 months later, I had 2 major redevelopments under my belt. One outside Austin, another in Avondale. Pinnacle didn't micromanage. They cleared the runway and let me fly. Carmen backed my decisions, even the risky ones. We built fast, clean, and under budget. Contractors answered my calls. City planners took meetings without delay. It felt like finally working at full power. No babysitting, no politics, just results. Tom Gallagher called my second week at Pinnacle, said he was moving his Tempe project to us. Ray Diaz followed 2 weeks after that. By month 3, we'd picked up 4 former Apex clients without me making a single sales call. They just found their way over, asking if I had time to handle their work. I did. Brandon was 16 now, a junior in high school. He noticed the change immediately. "You're home for dinner now," he said one night, like he couldn't believe it. "Yeah," I said, "I am." Tyler called from college that same week. He was interning at a civil engineering firm in Tempe, learning the same trade I'd spent 2 decades mastering. "Dad," he said, "my supervisor asked if I was related to Greg Palmer at Pinnacle. Said you're the guy who actually knows what he's doing." I smiled. "Tell him I said thanks." I did. "He wants to grab coffee with you sometime." "Talk shop. I'd like that." I was sketching site flow for a 3rd build when Carmen walked in holding a rolled-up magazine. "Thought you'd want to see this," she said. She tossed it on my desk. Southwest Construction Journal. Not flashy, but every major investor read it. The front page headline was brutal. "Apex Development bleeds contracts after leadership shakeup." Right underneath, a picture of Ashley looking completely lost at a podium, sweat visible on her collar, mouth half open mid-sentence. I didn't even have to read it to know, but I did anyway. The article laid it all out. Client walkouts, missed city deadlines, multiple permit rejections. Chandler Heights and Peoria both delayed indefinitely. Contractors pulling out due to payment irregularities and lack of communication. Cliff had been pushed out after an investor revolt led by Leonard Porter. Ironic, considering Len had been in that office 6 months ago talking about Ashley's MBA. Ashley resigned 2 weeks later after a disastrous public city council meeting where she fumbled a Q&A session and misquoted local zoning law on live stream. The video went semi-viral in industry circles. Not the kind of attention anyone wants. I stared at the photo for a long moment. The kid looked like she wanted to disappear. Carmen sat across from me, arms folded. "They said you were just operational, a behind-the-scenes workhorse." "They did," I said. She tapped the magazine. "Turns out you were the glue." I nodded once, didn't need to say more. The next day, my phone started buzzing. Nicole Huang, a former Apex project manager, the good one who actually knew her stuff, asked if we were hiring. I sent her to Carmen's office myself. She started 2 weeks later. Later that week, one of our current contractors forwarded me an email from a client I'd handled at Apex. The guy was asking if I was at Pinnacle now and if we'd be open to a meeting about a commercial development in Surprise. We were. We got the contract. Carmen grinned when I told her. You didn't burn the bridge, she said. You just made the traffic go your direction. By the end of the month, 3 more ex-Apex employees had reached out. 2 found work elsewhere. 1 we hired as a site coordinator. The firm I'd helped build from the dirt up was eating itself alive, and the people inside were clawing their way out. They said I was replaceable. Turns out I wasn't. A few weeks later, I was driving through Phoenix after a site visit in Goodyear. I hadn't eaten all day and my head was pounding. I pulled off the freeway and ended up at a place called Builder's Corner Cafe, one of those spots where contractors and city inspectors grabbed lunch between jobs. Still had the same flickering open sign, same cracked leather booths. I slid into one near the back and ordered black coffee and eggs. Then I saw her, Ashley. She was 2 booths over, hunched over a stack of textbooks and blueprints. Pencil behind her ear, no designer blazer, no polished appearance. Just her and a legal pad full of notes and diagrams. I watched for a second, then got up and walked over. She looked up, startled, embarrassed. Greg, hey! Wow. I didn't expect to see me in public, I said, raising an eyebrow. She gave a sheepish smile. Something like that. I nodded toward the mess on the table. What's all this? Night classes, she said. Construction management. Started a few weeks ago. I'm working full-time during the day, too. Entry-level project coordinator at a small firm in Tempe. Learning the stuff you thought you could skip? She chuckled once, but there wasn't any fight in it. Yeah, turns out there's a lot I didn't know. I thought I could fake it till I made it, but faking it just cost people money. Or $18,000, I said. She nodded. Yeah, that too. There was a long pause. She didn't look up right away. Then she said, Thanks for not throwing me to the wolves. You could have wrecked me during those 2 weeks, but you didn't. I shrugged. Wasn't my job to ruin you. Wasn't my job to save you either. I get that now. I looked down at her notebook. Real formulas, real specs, nothing easy. Structural load calculations, drainage ratios, the kind of stuff you can't bullshit your way through. I respect that you're doing the work now, I said. It'll take time, but it'll stick. She smiled, small and genuine. That means a lot coming from you. I tapped the table twice and turned to leave. On the way out, I paid both our tabs. Just before I hit the door, I turned back and said, You're doing it right this time. That matters. She didn't argue. She just nodded. I stepped out into the hot Arizona sun, slid on my sunglasses, and got in my truck. My phone buzzed. Text from Tyler. Dad, you free Saturday? Want to hit some golf balls and talk about my internship. They might offer me something after graduation. I texted back, Let's do it. Then I drove home. Brandon would be there, probably doing homework at the kitchen table. Maybe I'd grill some burgers, sit outside while the desert cooled down, and just be present for once. 5 years ago, I thought I was building something at Apex. Turns out I was just building someone else's empire. But now I was building my own. And the people who mattered were still there. That was enough.